created using Powtoon.
Good morning and welcome to Take Your Life Back Today show with Ralf Friedrichs. I just want to welcome each and every one. Tomorrow, well, I should say yesterday, was Martin Luther King's birthday, and I hope everyone got to see the special that I have done. I posted it all over the internet, and I hope you got to see the special. If you didn't, text me at 631-599-0218, and I will get it over to you. Let me adjust this camera. And today we are going to talk about, and the reason I'm going to talk about this, but let me give you the title, it's the grief of an overdose death. But it's really grief over overdose death, or just grieving death in itself. Lately there have been not a lot, but a few close friends of mine that have experienced some sort of death in their family, whether it was due to overdose or due to a disease, illness, or due to self-inflicted death. So this applies really to all of them. However, for argument's sake, or for all intents and purposes, the title of this is The Grief of an Overdose Death. As always, I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine over at startingpointmn.com. That's www.startingpointmn.com. The MN is for Minnesota. Dr. Luis Gonzalez at 844-414-8444. He is an addiction recovery coach. He can help walk you from your addiction to your recovery hand in hand, 24 hours at a time, today and tomorrow, never ever thinking about yesterday. He nor I talk about the past. We're not therapists, and we also are not counselors. What we are addiction recovery coaches. He can also, just like me, help take your life back. Also, what you might want to do is look him up if you want to become an addiction recovery coach. That's Dr. Luis Gonzalez over at startingpointmn.com. If you have personality, professionalism, and passion, and you have some sort of addiction in your background, whether battling with your own, or possibly you are helping others battle through their addiction, call him at 844-414-8444. That's Dr. Luis Gonzalez at startingpointmn.com. Also want to give a plug to globaleyeglasses.com. That's www.globaleyeglasses.com, where they are focused on saving you money. They have frames from $6. That's right, you heard right, as low as $6, going up to about $49. And those prices include standard, regular RX, plastic, non-coated, single vision lenses from $6 to $49. If you want progressives, they have them. Transitions, photochromatics, they have them. Polarization, they have them. They have line bifocals. They have the little circle bifocals. They have everything. And let me tell you folks something real unique about globaleyeglasses.com is that they have frames that are so out of this world. Even Elton John would be amazed by the frames that globaleyeglasses.com carries. If you have any questions about them, I am so familiar with this company. Matter of fact, if you go on their website and you go about us, you will find my picture at globaleyeglasses.com, where they are focused on saving you money. If you have any questions about them, or if you need help with your eyeglasses, I am a board-certified optician. You can reach me at 631-599-0218 for texting purposes, and for phone calls, you can reach me at 844-405-HELP. I also want to just give a shout out to my own new website, which is www.takeyourlifebacktodayshow.com. Go there and you'll see all the videos that I have posted in the last 2 months. If you want to see all my videos, you can go to my YouTube channel. Just go in the search in YouTube, Take Your Life Back Today Show, with Ralf Friedrichs or without Ralf Friedrichs, whichever one you want to type in. Just Take Your Life Back Today Show is sufficient. You will find all my videos. The grief of an overdose death. This is coming directly from the CDC. If you thought the avoidance around death and grief in our society was bad, it is nothing compared to the avoidance of drug-related deaths, because those are preventable deaths. Those are deaths that if we really truly look into our situation at home, in our family, and our friends, there are so many signs that you can pick up that a person is utilizing drugs and or alcohol, and the attitude on these people and possibly the mood swings can give you signs that they might be on the course of possible destruction, including death. Don't believe me? Did you know that Overdose deaths outnumber traffic fatalities in the U.S. Did you know that someone dies every 14 minutes from a drug overdose in this country? And let's put that in perspective. This video will approximately be about 30 minutes as far as my personal video. I mean, the complete video is about an hour, but let's say for an hour, that would be at least 4.25 deaths. Let's say just the speaking part of this video, which is about a half an hour, there will be 2.25 deaths. Unbelievable. In 2011, data came out showing that prescription medication overdose deaths outnumbered heroin and cocaine deaths combined. Overdose deaths outnumbered prostate cancer deaths and are nearing the number of breast cancer deaths. Don't feel bad if you didn't know that. That is the point, because the knowledge, the awareness is not out there, and there are people like me that are constantly and consistently daily producing videos and trying to get the word out there, and I need everybody to help me. I need the people that are watching me to help me. We're talking about it, we're doing the videos, we're doing the radio shows, we are doing everything to try to bring awareness. For anyone that's watching me, no matter where you are globally, try to help. Get in touch with your local chapters to try to bring awareness out. Get in touch with people that you might know that have addiction issues. Even as we see celebrity overdose deaths, from Anna Nicole Smith to Michael Jackson to Corey Monteith and countless other people in the entertainment business, we don't like to face the terrible reality that addiction can touch anyone, anywhere. We don't want to consider that even with more money for treatment than most of us could ever imagine, people still lose the battle every day. So it doesn't matter who you are. Excuse me one second. Let me just turn this down a little bit. There we go. As more and more people are touched by addiction, more and more families are left with the grief of an overdose death. Just maybe in the last 3 months, there was someone that is in my family indirectly that has an extended family that had an overdose death. And it doesn't care if you're white, black, yellow. It doesn't care if you're male, female. It doesn't care if you're young, old. This disease will take you if you let it. That's why it's so important that you let me or anyone like Dr. Luis Gonzalez or anyone else help take your life back. It hides out in the shadows everywhere. It is veiled in guilt and shame and stigma and discomfort. And it isn't just a social avoidance that you need to worry. It's academic research hasn't even faced this topic yet. The death feels avoidable. Much like suicide grief, there is a complexity in overdose deaths that people feel like the death has somehow could have been prevented. And that is important, that we need to see the signs. This can be created an array of complicated emotions, many of which can be linked back to the feeling and belief. Many of the feelings that I'm going to tell you about, these feelings included guilt, shame, blame, fear, isolation, all of the same way that can be correlated back to this. Guilt. Though guilt can be a component of grief coming from many types of losses, overdose deaths can present many different types of guilt. Friends and family may feel guilt that they could have, should have done something to prevent this loss. Guilt that family member suffered from addiction could be the fault of the person that is guilty about it, because maybe their relationship was crumbling. Maybe they were putting too much pressure on this person. So you start getting guilt from that. Guilt if the death brings a sense of relief after years of addiction impacting friends and family, and obsession over actions done, not done to support the person who died. When somebody comes to you, or if you go to someone with your alcoholism, your drug abuse, or if somebody comes to you with this, you need to extend your arms. You have to remember something, folks. Alcoholism and drug abuse or drug addiction is 99% disease. It is not a choice. I, as an alcoholic, never set out one day to say, I want to abuse alcohol. It had just taken my life over until I was able to take my life back. Next one is shame. There's often a question of the difference between guilt and shame. But it is important to understand that the distinction, as these can impact someone grieving in an overdose death. There are many different ways you will see guilt and shame defined and contrasted against each other. Here we mean the distinction as the contrast between personal experience versus relational experience. Guilt is something we feel within ourselves based on our own perception that we could or should have done something. Shame is something that we feel based on perception that others think that we could or should have done something. Do you see the distinction? Guilt is when we personally think that, yeah, we could have helped this person. Shame, on the other hand, is that we look at other people that are probably thinking that you should have or could have helped this person. Here are some of the different types of shames. Shame that a family member suffered from addiction, and it was their fault that this person suffered from addiction. So we now feel the shame because we know that other people are probably thinking this. Shame for enabling this person who died. Shame for not doing enough to help this person that died. Shame for the person who died, and we as people, as the person, could have, should have, but didn't help. The blame. So now we have the guilt, the shame, and now it's the blame. Though there is little research around grief experience of survivors of overdose deaths, the study by Fagelman, Jordan, and Gorman found a greater incidence of blame among between parents and children who died of drug-related deaths. Here are some of the blame issues at hand. Though this is the first U.S. research to officially document this, it seems pretty darn intuitive if you have lost anyone to overdose of known people who have. Some common feelings that arise from the blame are, here they are. Blame toward those who use drug and alcohol with the person who died. So your son or your daughter, your husband or your wife, the people they associated with that possibly could have enabled the drug and alcohol abuse. You're going to blame them. Self-blame for the person developing an addiction. Self-blame for person's death. Blame toward the person who died from their own death. Blame towards family members for not preventing the death. Obsession over actions done, not done to support a person's who died. Stigma and isolation. Though we know addiction touches hundreds, if not thousands of families each year, the family and the friends of those experiencing addiction often suffer a silence due to the feelings of stigma, guilt, and shame. When someone dies from an overdose, this is an isolation often that continues from reluctance to talk about the addiction. This can result in difficulty accepting the circumstances of the death, denial about drug involvement. If you know and your family knows and friends know that your loved one, no matter what, had drug issues, this will cause denial on your end. As much as the person that died, who for year after year after year was denying that they had a problem, now you're denying that it was the cause of it. Reluctance to openly discuss the cause of death. Reluctance to participate in support groups or counseling. Resistance to seek support from friends and family members. Fear and anxiety. Addiction is a devastating disease that is difficult to imagine if you have not experienced it within your family, friends, or in your own community. I struggle writing this to even put into words. It turns family members into strangers. It pins friends and families against one another. It devastates communities. It devastates states. Once someone has lost a family member in addiction, anxieties can arise or increase and becoming consuming. Fears include the fear that other family members will start abusing substances, I should say. Fear that others who are already using substances will also overdose. Fear that others who are in recovery will relapse. Face the reality of circumstances of the death. Denying the role of substances in a loved one's death is not surprising. When can be so much stigma and blame be involved? Finding your own way to face the role of drugs and loss, either to yourself and or to others, it is an important part of grieving an overdose loss. You need to speak up. He who shouts the loudest sends the loudest message. This doesn't have to be verbally, but find in some way that you will express the emotions that would come with addiction and drug-related deaths. It could be like I do through videos. I mean, I don't concentrate on drug deaths. I concentrate on the disease of alcoholism and or drug addiction. I concentrate on life coaching. I concentrate on motivational, inspirational. I concentrate on role model. But there has to be a way for you to communicate your concern, your battles, your personal experiences with this disease. This doesn't have to be verbally, but find some way that you will express the emotions that come with the addiction and drug-related death. Do you need to yell from the rooftops? No, of course not. You may not even be ready to talk about it at all. Maybe you'll find writing, art, music, photography are a better form of expression, or even like videos like mine. Maybe you will blog your feelings about the addiction and overdose. Maybe this has been a calling for a passion like it was for me, June 22nd, 2013, a passion to help others. If you are looking for a simple, subtle expression, you can purchase a silver overdose awareness pin or simply wear something silver on the 31st of every month. Or I should say the 31st of the months that have 31 days. You need to learn to understand the addiction. Most of us will always have feelings of guilt and self-blame for the overdose. And that's okay. Really, if you want to know more about our thoughts on guilt, you can check out my post on guilt, grief, and why you should tell a griever not to feel guilty. Go to my websites, www.clearviews.info. Go to www.clearreform.com, www.takeyourlifebacktodaysshow.com. The difference in my feelings now from 2 years ago about overdose, and that I have far better understanding of the addiction only because I do this on a daily basis. I've had personal experience in my own extended family, and it's people like you that reach out to me. My wife, who is the executive producer, and I were talking, and I get hundreds of emails. People that are either tell me I'm doing a good job, or people that have concerns about addiction. I will eventually start bringing these remarks on a next show. And when that does happen, I will bring it right to you and bring it into your living room or wherever you might be. Avoid the people who are not helping. Some friends and family members will continue to be part of the problem, even after you talk about it. They will imply an overdose death is some sort of lesser death, or that the life of someone suffering addiction is somehow less worthy of mourning. If you give them feedback, stand up for yourself, and ask the kinds of support you need, and they continue to cause you more harm and support, avoid them. Like you have to avoid drugs and alcohol. Seriously, it is okay to give yourself permission to get some space from those people. Depending on your relationship with the person that you may want to or need to take space away from them, or from yourself to keep away from them, try to do it in a diplomatic, politically correct way, so there aren't any hard feelings. But for now, you need to focus on being surrounded by people who are supportive during your grieving process. Want some help sorting out your support system and identifying who might help you the most? You can reach out to me at takeyourlifebacktodaysshow.com, or you can reach out to me at 844-405-HELP, or via text 631-599-0218. Folks, this title, The Grief of an Overdose Death, implies not just for overdose, it's death in the family itself. We are all going to have certain feelings when someone dies. Of course, with an overdose, there's always bigger red flags. But no matter what, a death is a death, and some deaths you always are going to have the feel of avoidability. If somebody has cancer, suffered for years, that is a death that is unavoidable because it is a disease that cannot turn around. But when somebody commits suicide, or if somebody overdoses, those are deaths that we could possibly have avoided by being alert, being aware of what these folks are going through. You're going to have some suicides that are out there, and most recently I spoke about this, where a person might take their own life because they found out from the doctor they are terminally ill, and they don't want to put you through the process of watching them die, so they do what they feel is the most easiest thing to do, and that's to take their own life. Folks, whether it's suicide, natural death, or overdose, the best way to deal with the death in the beginning is to think of all the good times, the good memories. And you're still going to have all these factors that I just read to you. You're still going to have the guilts, the shames, the blames, the isolation and stigma, the fear and anxiety. But no matter what, if it is an overdose death, you are responsible to speak up and bring awareness to your community, to your state, and if you want to go as far as I have, globally. There is not one day I don't do something to bring awareness to drug and or alcohol abuse. There are some days like my Martin Luther King special that has nothing to do with drug and alcohol, but it does have something to do with life coaching. Because he had a dream that one day all of us, black or white, would sit at the same table in brotherhood. He had a dream that his 4 children would be able to grow up and sit in the bus in the front, like it is right now in 2015. But my point here is that I have a passion, 95% passion, on fighting drug and alcohol addiction through my videos, through my websites, through my communication, to fight it, to help everyone else. And I have another passion, that's the other 5%, and that's to continuously motivate, inspire, to tell everyone that it all starts in your home as being a good role model. We all, as people, have a wonderful thing called a voice. And that voice should be heard by everyone, including the ones that are suffering from alcoholism, from drug addiction, from depression, that are suffering because they're homeless, that are suffering because they're in jail, that are suffering because they're in a nursing home and they're all alone. We have a voice to help these folks. Utilize your voice as a speaker. Utilize your voice as a singer. You utilize your voice as a reader in a nursing home to read to the older folks. Utilize your voice even to rap a song. But in all, wrap it together, put it together, and utilize your voice in the drug and or alcohol awareness. Bring awareness to that. Bring awareness to depression. Bring awareness to homelessness. Bring awareness to the older generation. What do you do on your with your spare time? Do you just sit around and watch TV? Well, that is the easy way out of life. Come up with a mission, a passion, and use that to bring word out to people that need to hear your voice of hope. It is my hope that at least 2 people get something out of each and every video that I create. I am one of those 2 people. I get something each and every time. I'm hoping at least one other person out of my millions that watch me get something. I'm hoping if you're sitting in jail that I'm giving you that light of hope that when you paid society back with your confinement, that you come out and you find happiness and you find a better life than you had prior to going into jail. I hope, if you're in a homeless shelter, that you utilize your money in the future not on drugs and alcohol, but on a blanket and a pillow, on food. I hope that if you're in a nursing home, that your family visits you more than they have. I hope, if you're in that nursing home, that you utilize your surroundings, such as TV and companionship with the fellow senior citizens, to utilize your time. You are still young enough to use your mind to be creative. I hope, if you're sitting at home and watching this, that you know, if you've seen my shows before, that I emphasize on monkey see, monkey do. What you do in front of your children and grandchildren is what your grandchildren or children are going to utilize in their future in society. If you drink and smoke, stop doing it in front of them. If you use profanity, stop doing it in front of them. And never ever physically abuse anyone in general, especially not in front of your children. Be the role model that you can be. And if you're going to sit there and tell me, well, my parents, meaning your parents, were bad role models and that's why you can't be one, wrong. Break the chain, break the cycle. Let your generation be the first generation to help take your grandchildren's life back. It all starts with you at home. The grief of an overdose death, the grief of a death in itself, is a terrible thing to go through. Please work on the guilt feelings. Work on the shame feelings. Work on the blame, on the isolation, the fear and anxiety, and work on the circumstances of the death. But most importantly is speak up about the death, especially if it was overdose, especially if it was suicide, more especially if it was drug or alcohol related. Be the voice of reason and speak up. Find that passion that you have somewhere deep inside you. Join my crusade and help me help you or anyone else take your life back. Remember, if you let the sunshine from outside into your heart and into your home, you will get nothing but positive results. Because as sober today, I guarantee you will make you a better tomorrow. Remember what I said in the beginning. Every 14 minutes someone dies of drug overdose. This video right now, we're at 29 minutes. 2 people have died. Don't let it be you. Don't let it be anyone in your family. Look for the signs within your own family. Look for the signs within yourself. 844-405-HELP is my phone number. I am here to help you take your life back. May God bless you and have a sober day. Good morning and welcome to Take Your Life Back. Today is September 4th. It's about 3:30 in the morning. I just want to share with everyone something this morning. I saw a demonstration maybe about a month ago in reference to our dark side and the power of prayer. If you continuously pray over and over and over again, things will eventually become clear. Although a lot of times when we pray to God, we don't get answers right away. But if you continuously pray over and over, things become clear. So the demonstration involves this bottle, and if you see, the inside of this bottle is all dark liquid. That represents our dark side. And this cap represents our limitations. So we as a human, which is the bottle, have limitations, which is this cap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bottle into the sink and we're going to do a demonstration. So let me put that there. I'm going to turn the camera around so that everybody can see it. And hopefully you folks can all see it now. Okay, so you see the bottle. I'm going to turn the water on. Okay, so now everything inside is dark, which represents our body and our inside. And what I'm going to do, and this clear water represents our prayer. So you see the continuous water running. I'm going to now, as the prayer, as we're praying, I'm going to lift our limitations, which is the cap. And we're going to slowly add our prayer to this. We all go through dark times. I mean, I've had some dark years. I just didn't understand everything that was happening. I'm going to admit it that I'm not a super patient person. I tend to want answers right away and know what's happening and what I can do to solve it. I don't like not being happy and confident about things. It's just not who I am. But when I get down, it takes a lot for me to get back up. If we pray for a sign, which is this, the water is prayer, but just give up because we feel like God's already heard our prayer and He knows what we need, but He hasn't answered. It's kind of like when we were kids in the toy store and we kept asking our mom and dad for toys, but we never got any results. Yeah, it never worked for me either, but you get what I mean. Anyway, that is exactly what's happened to me in the past years. I have prayed and prayed and prayed, but haven't really gotten any results. The answer I thought God would give me, and especially in the time of frame, I thought my problems would be fixed, which was all before 2013. Then in 2013, my cap of limitations was lifted. This is the cap, remember this now, was lifted off the bottle, which is my body. Here is where I will just show you how that worked for me. So basically we all have dark sides, which is what's in the bottle, was in the bottle. We are facing, and we take the limitations off our mind, which was the cap I lifted. Don't limit what He can do because we have to just trust in the Lord. That sometimes even after we pray and we just give up. And it is often why we get defeated. However, even though nothing has really changed, we just keep praying. That's the prayer, the sign of the prayer, the flowing Lord. Just keep praying and never ever give up praying. And if we do that and devote ourselves completely to the Lord, He will pull us through. The dark times will go away and we just have to be patient. I know it's hard. Being patient truly is a virtue. But by never ever giving up on prayer, it's going to show you that God will eventually answer all your prayer. And the more we pray, which is this water going into the bottle, one day everything will become clear. You see how clear this is now? That is the power of prayer. Folks, I think that demonstration says it all. If we had a bottle which represents our body, and the bottle, everything was dark on the inside, and the water coming out of the faucet represents the prayer day after day after day, just keeps adding to the darkness which was in the bottle. Eventually, all that prayer has to turn what was dark inside this bottle, which is our body, has to change and become as clear as this water in here. That, folks, is the power of prayer. Hello, folks. My name is Ralf Friedrichs. I just want to share my story with my situation back in 1981 in the United States Marine Corps. I was sitting in a chapel during boot camp, and a chaplain tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to come into his quiet room. As I was walking into his quiet room, I had no idea what he wanted from me. It was then that God was setting my life in motion. So the chaplain sat me down and he says, Ralph, I've noticed that you like to help people, you motivate people, you're always walking around with a smile. And I wanted to know, this is the chaplain saying this to me, I wanted to know, Ralph, would you like to volunteer and become a lay leader? And of course, I had no idea what a lay leader was. So he explained to me what a lay leader was. It's somebody that is a liaison between the recruits and the chaplain. So when the recruits have issues, problems, or anything like that, they go to the lay leader, and they go to the chaplain as the lay leader to let the chaplain know of the situations that are happening. It was then in 1981 that God already had a plan for me, and when there from that point on was that God realized that no matter how long it would take for me to achieve what God already knew what was going to happen to me, He would let me go down into the worst extremes in life. So from 1981 as a lay leader, and I'm going to show you the medal now with a lay leader, the front and the back. This is the back of the medal, and then the front looks like this. So in 1981, at Paris Island, South Carolina, when I became a lay leader, God already had my life set in motion. But again, He wanted me to set my own course in life. So I went down the years and the course of my life and did some of the worst things possible to my own body through alcoholism. God already said to Himself, well, I'm going to wait for Ralph to get close to hitting rock bottom. So from 1981 until 2011, which is 30 years, God came to me again and He said, Ralph, are you ready to continue helping other people? That's when I formed Mastic Beach Outreach 2011, and what that was is for older people and mentally and physically challenged people, that my wife and I would help them by giving them clothing, food, possibly, like in one case, tires for someone's car. And so God said, okay, he is getting better, but he's still not ready to do what I really wanted him to do. So in 2011, I continued my alcoholism to the point of 10 to 15 shots a day. As time went further, 2 years down the road, it became worse and worse with my alcoholism. In 2013, God finally put His big hand on my head and says, are you ready now? That is when I hit rock bottom. June 22nd, 2013, I reached out and I finally admit that I had an alcohol problem. It was then when God lifted me up and set my life in motion for today, September 2nd, 2014. So from 2013 until 2014, I continue educating myself and you, others, through my websites, through my videos on how to battle with addiction. And God saw this, and He said to Himself, Ralph is still continuing helping people. So in between 2013 and 2014, as time was going by, and I proved to God that I was really reforming myself, that God introduced me to Dr. Luis Gonzalez. I had been toying with the idea about becoming a substance abuse counselor until I ran into an article about recovery coaching. So I thought it was very ironic that God had planted Dr. Luis Gonzalez from Starting Point, that's StartingPointmn.com, 844-414-844, into my life. Dr. Luis Gonzalez gave me the educational programming to turn me into a recovery coach. So while I was training for Dr. Luis Gonzalez to become a recovery coach, and today, my father comes from South Carolina to visit, and we're looking at my shrine, which my wife calls a shrine, which is all my Marine Corps ribbons and medals. And my father asked me, Ralph, what is this medal for? What is this particular medal for? And I then said to myself, here's where it all came together. I finally realized what that medal stood for and how it influenced me in my life. It was back in 1981 that God knew already that I would eventually, towards the middle or 60% of my life, be out to help other people, to continuously help people, to motivate people, to coach people. So it was from 1981 to 2011 that I ran my life to the ragged ends, to the pit of the worst. And then from 2011 to 2013, even worse than that. And then June 22nd, 2013, finally helped myself up with the grace of God. And in 2014, became an addiction recovery coach. And all that epiphany came to me due to my father asking me what this stood for. This particular silver medal. When he asked me that, it all finally came together, that God had bigger and better plans for me. And this is what I'm telling you, folks. There is a plan for you. No matter what the plan might be, you don't know what it is, but there is a plan for you. It's just a matter of you figuring it out. So why don't you let me help take your life back? Thank you. God bless you, and have a sober day.